So we'll end maybe watching a bit of Nux, because I think my opinion from him will be even more radically different than Asmongold. In any case, this is a good video to start on because I thought it was really interesting.
Offer that was being made to Iran in connect that they were indeed all together meeting.
This is a section he's explaining how the United States kill off all those leaders in the first day. This, I think, is probably the most realistic explanation.
Because they were at this meeting, that this is where the defense minister, the chief of the general staff, the head of police intelligence, the head of the IRGC, that they were indeed all together meeting with Khamenei in his residence. And that the reason they were there was, again, because they'd received indications via the Omani mediators of a new offer that was being made to Iran in connection with the negotiations.
Do you hear that? That's why all the leaders were together, so that Israel could bomb them, Israel-US could bomb them that first night. It's because, like I said, they'd apparently made this offer.
That were taking place between the Iranians and the Americans. The negotiations that took place in Geneva last week and which were expected to resume in Vienna this week. And it was in order to discuss this American proposal that all of these Iranian officials were brought together to one place. And as has happened far too many times, it happened last year in the case of Iran. It happened with Hamas, the Hamas negotiators who were attacked in Qatar. The Iranians, again, fell for the trick. They all came together. They all met in Khamenei's residence. And it was all a trick. It was all a trap to bring them into one place so that they could be killed in the way.
Isn't that twisted and wrong?
That they were. Now, I have to say, if this is true, it again astonishes me that the Iranians were caught by this same trick again. I appreciate that.
Don't trust the US. That's the lesson from all this, unfortunately.
This type of compulsive duplicity from the Israeli and American governments is like nothing we have ever seen before in modern history. But nonetheless, we now have a clear pattern of it, starting from June of last year. And I would have thought...
So we made this offer on that last night before the military attack. And so even though they had the warnings of everything, they were given this, probably said, this is your last offer. Consider it carefully. And so they all met up to consider the offer, and then we bombed them. So that's how we got all their leaders. It wasn't wonderful intel or you know, beings, our incredible technology. No. It was just being us being absolute assholes and dishonest bastards. That was the answer. Pretty sad. Okay, now I just have a bunch of links of stuff that I thought was interesting. So what was this one?
This has every potential to trigger a major political crisis within the United States itself.
Yep.
It may be that, contrary to what the president thinks, he might not be able to end this war in 4 weeks, because by that point, Iranian demands might have become, as he would see it, so excessive.
I think what so excessive would be no more U.S. bases in the Gulf. That's potentially Iranians' demand once they get the upper hand. Like, disable, like kick all American presidents out of the Gulf. What does Trump do if that's their demand? Yeah, he just, it's such a terrible position he allowed himself to be manipulated into.
That it would be politically impossible for him to agree to them, in which case we might not be looking at a war in the Middle East lasting weeks, 4 weeks, or months. It could be a war that drags on for much longer than that.
Years.
For years.
Another Ukraine.
Eventually. Just as the Vietnam War did with Iran.
And I bet you China is going to be supplying and backing in terms of supplies to Iran, so they're not going to run out that way. And so another commenter made a good point that if China really wants to help Iran, all it has to do is stop rare earth exports to the United States, and basically our missile production goes to zero. Our military industrial complex shuts down. So we'll see.
Sustaining that war with help from the Chinese and the Russians, just as North Vietnam got the help of those two powers to sustain its war.
Yeah, Russia and China backing Iran, and then the U.S., at this point, crumbling U.S. empire, playing about. You have Trump that doesn't want long wars. That's the one silver lining, I think, in this is that I think Trump was tricked into this war, and he does not want to be in a long war. He does not want to put boots on the ground, and so he's gonna try to resist that. We'll see what happens. Okay, what do I have next? Yeah.
Move for them because they understand viscerally what that does to a power. It really begins to corrupt them, as you've seen with us, because you can do deficit spending out the rear end because your currency is the one that the deficit spending is denominated in, oil sales and so forth. And Saudi Arabia right now is on the cusp of agreeing with Xi Jinping. I think we'll see that agreement within the next 12 months, where they will turn everything they do in terms of oil sales denominated in renminbi rather than dollars. This is a monumental change in the world. And look at where...
This is what I wrote about 15 years ago, and what I feared. It took a lot longer, but I think it might really happen. This Iran war might be the trigger for the end of the petrodollar, basically. And that's going to put U.S. dollar on a death spiral. And so, I'm not saying this is going to happen instantly, but I'd say 5 years from now, U.S. dollar could be in the midst of hyperinflation.
We are right now. Look at what we're doing right now. And if we wanted to bring...
And inflation is going to get worse and worse approaching that point.
This to some kind of successful end, which I don't think is even possible with regard to Iran, we put 12 million men in the field for Germany and Japan and had the Soviets to help us with 20 million plus casualties. They beat the Wehrmacht. We didn't. They beat the Wehrmacht. 90 million in Iran. We couldn't put 500,000 soldiers and Marines on the ground in Iran. They would be consumed. They would be destroyed. They would be beat.
How would they even get there?
With regards to the Gulf states, they know where everything is. They know where every U.S. CIA base is. They know
that is easy. That I agree with because it's easy. U.S. headquarters that was bombed in that building earlier in the war, that was been there for years. Even we in the country know where intelligence is. It becomes open secrets. So this I'm not surprised at all. Yes, they know where. They've had time to study and figure out where every U.S. asset in the region is.
Know where every Israeli base is. They know in Erbil, in the Kurdish regional government in Iraq, they also have demonstrated that they will hit those Israeli bases as far back as January 2020, when they responded to the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. So people have this idea that Iran's a backward country and they don't know what they're doing, and it's mullahs bumbling around with missiles and things.
No, Houthis are more that. But even then, they managed to hold their own against two U.S. aircraft carriers. Iran's an entirely different beast.
Like that. No, they're very specific in their strategy. They have prepared to respond immediately if they were attacked. They did not believe the negotiations were legitimate or sincere, and I think the U.S. has lulled itself just institutionally into.
Yeah, if you're a leader in Iran right now and you don't want this war to end until you've inflicted such a cost that the U.S. never considers killing Iran's leadership again. That U.S. is petrified of trying to do another decapitation strike against Iran, because if you end it here, if you do what Trump wants and accept the ceasefire, and you've established that U.S. can come in and just kill leadership, which is you, the Iranian leadership, whenever it wants, and there'll be no repercussions. You're basically a dead man walking if you allow that to stand. You need to set up some very serious deterrence if you want to have a long life as a leader of Iran.
To a kind of complacency from the Iraq war period and the Afghanistan war period. They've reconfigured their entire military around a certain type of a profile for missions. Douglas McGregor had said this previously, I think in the summer. He said that the current U.S. forces, they really only have around just over 400,000 or 420,000 troops. And out of those...
Whether or not these other powers will take advantage of this and move forcibly and fundamentally to do it is a huge question. But it should be a question that is on the mind of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kane, on the mind of all the leaders of the armed forces. I don't know if Peter Hegseth has them who do not advantageous situation. And I think the greatest problem right now is none of them realize it at all. Russia has determined that even though it's tied down in Ukraine, that one, we are absolutely untrustworthy and so no longer present a partner of consequence. Yeah, and it's up to them to finish it off. But that's a ground operation.
Yeah, basically our trust in us is down the drain because of what we just did. Let's see.
There's a facility in Qatar called Ras Laffan Industrial City, a complex so large it is visible from space, a cluster of liquefaction trains and export terminals.
Basically, I just made a note of this video that Iran has begun attacking oil infrastructure of other Gulf states, and that 20% of the global gas supply is just gone. And actually, it is a pretty good video. We'll watch it. Even if it's AI, it does summarize the situation pretty well.
That stretches across Qatar's northeastern coastline and produces, every single day, more liquefied natural gas than any other facility on the surface of the Earth. 1/5 of all the LNG that Europe heats its homes with, that Japan runs its power plants on, that South Korea uses to manufacture its electronics, 1/5 of all of it comes from Ras Laffan. This morning, Iran sent 2 drones. One found a water tank at the Mesaieed power plant. The other found an energy facility inside Ras Laffan Industrial City. And Qatar Energy, the state company that operates the largest LNG export facility on Earth, issued a single statement that contained the most consequential sentence in global energy markets since Russia invaded Ukraine. Due to military attacks on Qatar Energy's operating facilities in Ras Laffan Industrial City and Mesaieed Industrial City in the state of Qatar, Qatar Energy has ceased production of liquefied natural gas and associated products. Ceased production, not reduced, not paused pending damage assessment. Ceased the complete shutdown of 1/5 of global LNG supply.
I think if they try to start it back up, Iran will hit them again. I think that's their strategy, is just to attack different oil infrastructure and do damage and force them to shut down, not completely destroy them. That's their strategy at this point. That's what I would do if I was Iran. And as long as they keep them offline, I would not necessarily attack them again. But if they try to turn them back on, another drone comes in.
Supply in a single Monday morning statement with no timeline for resumption, while Qatar Energy declared force majeure on its contractual obligations to deliver LNG to its customers. Force majeure. The legal declaration that a party cannot fulfill its contracts due to circumstances beyond its control. Every long-term LNG contract between Qatar Energy and every European utility, every Japanese power company, every South Korean industrial buyer. Every one of those contracts is now suspended under force majeure. The gas they were counting on for this spring and summer.
For Europe, this is terrible. Their gas reserves are low because they've had a cold winter and they've had disruptions, and they rely on this Qatar gas to replenish their gas before next winter. Without that gas, they're not going to have enough gas for next winter. It's going to be a disaster in Europe.
The gas they needed to refill storage ahead of next winter is not coming. There's no timeline for when it will come, and the Strait of Hormuz, through which all of Qatar's LNG would travel even if production resumed tomorrow, has already largely stopped all tanker traffic. European natural gas futures soared after the shutdown. The Dutch TTF natural gas contract, considered the European benchmark for LNG prices, rose more than 25% in the morning. European benchmark gas futures jumped the most since the energy crisis in
Oh, hi, Proton Stale. Sorry. Can't stay long. Got to pick up my family at the train station, but I hope I'll hop on in a little while. That's a big deal. Yes, it's a big deal that this gas shut down. Thanks for stopping by.
2022. Goldman Sachs analysts warned of massive 130% upside risk for European gas prices, potentially hitting 74 MW if LNG flows are blocked. Experts cited by Russian trading data warned that a protracted conflict could lead to spot gas prices in Europe rising to $1,000 per 1,000 cubic meters or more.
But there is one party that could save Europe, that could give them the gas they need. Guess who that is?
$1,000 per 1,000 cubic meters. That is not a war scenario from a risk assessment document. That is the live trading floor projection being circulated in European energy markets on Monday morning, March 2nd, 2026, while the facility that supplies 1/5 of the world's LNG sits dark in northeastern
1/5.
Qatar with no restart date. The threat to security of supply is here and now, said Simone Tagliapietra, an analyst at Bruegel. The extent of it will depend on the duration of the shutdown, but we are now into a new scenario. A new scenario. That phrase, from one of Europe's most respected
New
energy think tanks,
scenario.
is the professional equivalent of saying that every plan European governments make
Funny how that matches up nicely with the pipeline blowing up. Yes.
made for energy security this decade was constructed around an assumption.
He's talking about in Ukraine or an LNG pipeline being blown up there.
false. The Rosslaufen would keep running regardless of what happened in the Middle East.
But that still isn't really relevant because they have until next winter to replenish supply. So the pipeline pipeline can be repaired pretty damn quickly. So it's still very possible for Europe to get LNG from Russia if they decide to do that. But that would, the undersea one. Oh, but they have overland ones, and some of them through Ukraine, and some of them go around Ukraine. So Russia can make up the shortfall, even if they have to transfer some of it by ship.
Because Qatar was above the conflict. Because Iran would never
Problem is, would Europe do what's necessary to get that gas?
target the infrastructure that funds Qatar's entire economy. Because economic self-interest would restrain the hand reaching for the drone controller. Iran reached for the drone controller. And now Europe is in a new scenario with no map. Stay with me. Because Rosslaufen going dark is not just an energy story. It is the moment the chess game
Might be AI, but the way the video is written is very, very good, and the points it's making are very good. So I'm wondering, I'm curious whether it's AI that writes the scripts to these videos, or if it's a person that writes a script and then the AI turns it into a video. I wonder how it works.
that Russia and China have been playing since January 2026 revealed its final configuration. And every piece on the board is exactly where Moscow and Beijing needed it to be. Russian oil and gas companies are clearly benefiting from the events unfolding in the Middle East.
This war against Iran is wonderful for Russia. For one thing, all the air defenses that was going to go to Ukraine is now headed towards the Middle East instead. And just reset this a little bit. There we go. Is all heading towards the Middle East. And there's a risk that U.S. tries to pull some air defense out of Ukraine even and move it to the Middle East if things go wrong. And it's entire U.S. focus. And now Europe, too, because of energy security, is now shifting to Iran. And things already weren't going well for Ukraine. So I would not want to be Zelensky right now.
Their stock prices continue to rise. That sentence from Russian trading data published this Monday morning is not a boast. It is a description of a mechanism. Russia's Gazprom Rosneft, and Novatek are rising in value on the Moscow exchange because the Ras-Laffan facility that competes with Russian gas for European customers is dark, because the Strait of Hormuz that carries Russian competitors' oil is conditionally closed, because the Saudi Aramco refinery at Ras Tanura that processes...
You know what? I'm just guessing. I'm fairly sure that the EU, European Union will put out an emergency exception for this year so they can buy gas from Russia. That's what's going to happen. I know it. I find it ironic that Ukraine is where Khazaria stood, and both wars are happening at the same time. I thought, yes, history doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes.
150,000 barrels per day of Saudi crude is shut as a precautionary measure because oil and gas production has stopped in Iraqi Kurdistan, and several large Israeli gas fields have sharply reduced exports to Egypt. Everything that competes with Russian energy in the global market is shutting down simultaneously. And Russia did not fire a single missile to make it happen. Kirill Dmitriev, the special representative of the president of the Russian Federation, reminded the Europeans about the refusal of the European Union to purchase Russian gas. When you see a higher energy bill, remember Happy Ursula and Kaya. Remember Happy Ursula and Kaya. That message from Putin's personal economic envoy, delivered on Monday morning as European gas prices surged 50%, is aimed precisely at the European Commission president and the European Council president, who spent 3 years building a sanctions architecture designed to cut Russia off from European energy revenues. The architecture worked. Russia's gas revenues from Europe fell. And now the alternative supply source that Europe built that architecture around, Qatar's Ras-Laffan, the facility that was supposed to replace Russian gas permanently, is dark. And Europe has no third option that can deliver gas at scale before next winter. Putin spoke by phone today with the president of the United Arab Emirates, the Emir of Qatar, and the King of Bahrain. 3 Gulf leaders, one Monday morning. The same Gulf leaders whose territory is being struck.
No, even if EU does do an emergency thing to allow the purchase of Russian gas, I wonder if Russia will go along with it at this point in time, or try to extract something.
Iranian missiles, whose energy infrastructure is shutting down, whose American defense systems have failed to stop the attacks, and whose...
Well, that is the main gist of this video.
Hello and welcome to another episode of India and Global Left.
Scott Ritter is saying this war could end U.S. power in the Middle East, and I think it will greatly weaken it, at the very least, U.S. power in the Middle East. For one, it'll reveal the limits of U.S. power. For two, I think there's a very real chance that Iranians' demand to stop raining down the missiles is no more U.S. bases in the Middle East. Get your bases out. And if that's the case, oh my God. And you have to remember, basically the entire region has 1 or 2 weeks of interceptor missiles left. After that, they basically has no air defense. Russia would be able to rain down hell, and no one would have any ability to stop it. So we'll have to see.
If you're new to the show, please hit that subscribe button. Also consider becoming a YouTube member, a Patreon, or donate small amount given in the link in the description box. Let me welcome our guest tonight, Scott Ritter. Scott is a former U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer, former United Nations Special Commission weapons inspector, author, and commentator. Scott, welcome back to India and Global Left.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
I wanted to start out by asking you your assessment of the...
It's funny that there's this whole network of commentators on Iran and Ukraine. And then you have this whole other that are very accurate, and then you have this whole other network of commentator, which is Asmongold, like Nugs Taku, the recent arrivals to political commentating from in the streaming sphere, and there's no overlap between the two. They're not talking to each other. I mean, it'd be so good for American awareness if one of these guys, Daniel Davis, Scott Ritter, were to talk to Asmongold or Nugs Taku and bring them up a little bit to reality.
The ongoing conflict between Iran and U.S.-Israel?
Well, first of all, it's a conflict that never should have happened, but was, I guess, inevitable that it would happen. This is more than just a repetition of the 12-day war. This is an existential war of survival, and the stakes are as high as they can be. There will only be one winner in this war. And as I look at things right now, Iran looks as though it's on the inside track to win this.
It's on the inside track to win because from here on out, everything tilts in its favor. Trump got his big victory moment at the very, very start of the war where he kills all these leaders. But from here on out, every day that Iran lasts, every day it continues shooting missiles, it's winning more and more. It's proving U.S. power, the limits of U.S. power. It's putting pressure on the entire region. It's putting pressure on entire global energy structure and economic structure. And Trump is not in a position to weather any of this. He has midterms coming up, and just this is a very good point. The Iran war itself is what Trump will be impeached for if Democrats get Congress, because it is an impeachable offense. In U.S. president getting the U.S. into a long-term war without Congress, that's what the Democrats will use, and honestly, there won't be a good defense against it, because if it's something short like what happened in Venezuela, they can't really do anything. But this lasts more than a month, it's an impeachable offense. And if Democrats get Congress, yeah. Which is likely if it lasts more than months, because energy prices will be up. There'll be all type of economic chaos, stock market chaos. Trump loses the midterms if this lasts more than months.
War.
And he gets impeached, and basically his presidency is effectively over. So that's why it was such a catastrophically idiotic decision for Trump to do this thing in Iran.
This means that the United States will be defeated, humiliated, and compelled to retreat from the Middle East. Israel will be left alone, and the Gulf Arab states will have to purge their soil of American military bases. Now, people can sit here and say that's pie in the sky, but I dare you to contradict me on anything I just said.
That I don't know if that it will take months for something that extreme to happen. America will try to put boots on the ground against Iran before it allows that to happen. But again, there isn't the support to put boots on the ground, so it's a very interesting situation. I mean, Trump is going to need to unlock all this oil from the Middle East if he wants to win the midterms. Otherwise, oil prices are high. You have inflation. World stock market's crashing. But agreeing to take out all the bases from the Middle East, that would be a huge humiliation that would turn him into a lame duck in its own way. He got played by he got manipulated into this war, promised he could have this good optic. I think what happened in Venezuela, it was great for tricking him into this, because he thought, oh, this could be just as easy as Venezuela, whereas this is going to be nothing but pain.
If you're the emir of any of the Gulf Arab states and you have been promised the guarantee of American security, and you're watching your cities and your docks and your airports go up in flames and there's nothing the United States can do to stop it, prove me wrong. If you're the emir of Bahrain, watching the Shia population rise up in the streets threatening to overthrow you, prove me.
All these Gulf states, they are now considering possibility. If they align with China, they don't have to align themselves with Israel and the United States, and more specifically Israel, that's so hated. They could get all their weapons from China. That could be their solution, and that's going to look more and more tempting as the chaos ensues.
Me wrong. If you are the king of Saudi Arabia, looking at your eastern oil fields ablaze, prove me wrong. If you are the emir of Qatar, looking at your liquid natural gas fields, unable to produce, prove me wrong. If you're an energy producer in the Middle East, unable to ship your energy out of the Strait of Hormuz, prove me wrong. If you're Israel, watching your cities get pummeled every day, every hour, prove me wrong.
Yeah, I haven't talked about this much, but Netanyahu's done. I mean, if Israel has any pretense of being a democracy, it might take a week or two, but once Iron Dome completely collapses, once they run out of interceptors to protect Israel, and every Iranian drone gets through and hits Israel, and you have untold amount of destruction that basically destroys the economy. Netanyahu's done.
Look at Iran. They lost the Imam, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and all that did is strengthen them. There aren't people in the streets demanding the overthrow of the government. The Iranian people are rallying around their nation. And the Iranians have shown that they are more prepared for this war than anybody.
Yeah, they are surprisingly prepared. I mean, makes the response during 12-year war, like last year, it's now obvious that they were holding back a lot during that 12-day war. Really, they held back, given what they've done this time.
So, prove me wrong. I know it's not a popular position to take, but it's a fact-based position. It's based upon years of geopolitical analysis and military analysis. Unless something fundamentally changes in the way this war is being prosecuted, the United States and its allies will run out of ammunition in a few weeks' time. Iran will not run out of ammunition. Prove me wrong.
Yep. Not only will U.S. run out of offensive ammunition, more importantly, defensive ammunition. And you have to remember, Iran is bombing air bases across the region, and its missiles are, and it's already attacked the aircraft carrier with missiles, forcing it to retreat even further back from Iran. It's going to get harder and harder to actually bomb Iran. We haven't done real war in a while. I'd agree. The United States hasn't. I'd just say one exception is I practically think that Ukraine is the United States. That we've supplied them pretty much every one of our weapons. So that's pretty much a major war there. And well, you have millions of dead. So I think, but it's not us. It wasn't the United States, not U.S. dying. So yes, you're right. The United States, haven't done this in a while.
Can you tell us a little bit about the ammunition stock? There are
but U.S. citizens, yeah. So Ukrainians are doing all the dying in Ukraine.
Reports about 3,000 to 8,000 missiles for Iran. Analysts are also saying that Iranian drones in particular, but also missiles, are cheaper to produce. They're quicker to produce as in comparison to U.S. Intercepting anti-ballistic missiles and radar systems, which are also costlier. So if you could give us a better sense of the ammunition stockpiles and the military strength of both sides.
Well, first of all, you need to understand that the Iranians have been preparing for this conflict for years. So we're not just talking about the need to produce. In fact, I don't think the Iranians are producing anything right now. I think that their production capabilities have been evacuated from the facilities and hidden away because they recognize the inevitability of the physical destruction of these facilities. But you can always pour new concrete. You can't replace the equipment. So if the equipment is safely hidden away, the United States and Israel will be bombing any empty facilities. But this means that Iran is not relying upon
I'm also sure that they've set up some underground facilities which are continuing to produce weapons. So I disagree. I think they're at partial production. I mean, they have these entire underground networks for missiles that there are YouTube videos out there. I'm sure they have workshops in those tunnels too.
Weapons that have yet to be produced. They've already produced them, and they've already stockpiled them, and they've already factored in attrition. They have produced these, the Shahed series drones, which surprisingly are being very effective against targets everywhere. They've produced missiles, advanced missiles. They have stockpiles of older missiles, and they have a strategy on how to employ these missiles to maximum benefit.
They've been using their older missile systems to start off with.
The Iranians have already built this stuff, so it's a sunk cost. It's done, but it didn't bankrupt them to do it. By the way, the United States, who is the premier supplier of interceptors, to give you an example, the United Arab Emirates apparently bought $2 billion worth of.
One reason we haven't been able to crank up our production of interceptors is rare earth and the limits China has imposed.
Missile interceptors, and they're out. Done, finished, gone, zip. And who replaces them? There's no production line right now functioning to replace them. The United States hasn't gone into war production mode. We've already strained the entire system, supplying air defense systems to Ukraine. And now the Middle East is just shot through its load. And there's nothing left to replace it. This is reality. The United States itself has, stripped bare other theaters. I mean, when the president has to talk about we have plenty of ammunition all around the world, what he's saying is, so sad, too bad, South Korea and Japan, we're taking the missiles meant to defend you. Too bad.
You hear that? Yes, exactly. That's why Taiwan, this is great for China too. I mean, Taiwan's defenses are going pew down the drain. If I've said it last stream yesterday, if China doesn't attack Taiwan now, it's not serious about getting it back, because there'll be no better opportunity to take Taiwan than like 6 months from now, when U.S. is completely exhausted.
At Taiwan, those missiles are gone too. And Europe, sorry, we're taking those missiles as well. So this is the reality. Iran fires a drone that costs $20,000 to produce, and we shoot it down with 3 interceptor missiles that cost $3 to $4 million each to produce.
Wonderful math,
I'm not a
right?
genius. I'm just a simple Marine. I have trouble balancing my own checkbook at home, but that's a cost equation that isn't going to be sustainable. And this is the fact. But the most important thing to point out is that Iran has prepared for this war. It's already built all the weapons it's going to be using. The United States did not prepare for this war. In fact, the United States was warned off by both Israel and Saudi Arabia in January not to start this war unless you can finish it and guarantee an outcome. But we started the war nonetheless. It's a regime change war designed to bring down the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. But we don't have sufficient resources. And as we saw,
I don't think bombs alone could have done it. We would have needed boots on the ground. And since Trump was never even considering that, there was no way to do regime change in Iran.
our dreams
That's
of
why his idea to attack Iran was idiotic. And because you killed off Supreme Leader and all these leaders, there's absolutely no way Iran's going to stop retaliating. There's no way to say, oh, sorry, we just killed all your leaders. I want a ceasefire now, which is what Trump did. God, that's, brain dead.
decapitation constitutes nothing, because the planners seem to believe that Iran functioned as a dictatorship of one. Ali Khamenei was it. And when you remove the supreme leader, the system goes away, which means they have never read the Constitution of Iran, and they have no respect for Iran as a constitutional republic. Instead of collapsing, Iran immediately went the direction that the Constitution mandates. The president, the head of judiciary, and a jurist appointed by the Assembly of Experts formed an emergency committee that will operate as the supreme leader until which time the Assembly of Experts picks a new supreme jurist. So, and it looks like by Wednesday of this week, there will be a new supreme leader. And the country, the people have rallied around the republic. So not only has there been no decapitation, but the government is stronger now than ever before, which means that the major objective of bringing about the end of the Iranian regime is failed. In fact, it failed the very first missiles that hit Tehran. The first 6 missiles that hit killed Ali Khamenei, his 14-month-old granddaughter, and some other people. We
horrible.
tend to say that means we won this war. It means we lost this war because we didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve. We achieved the exact opposite.
If this situation
Okay, no, I'll let it.
is so revealing on just the third day, I wonder what led the U.S. to
Let's see what else I have.
We have Jeffrey Sachs with us, Columbia University professor.
Oh, no, this is a day ago. Let's try this one.
There are accusations that Donald Trump abused a minor girl in the 1990s. That's just...
Okay, so I this doesn't have to do with Iran, but it has to do with what I've said about the Epstein files, is that I suspect that there's been stuff added into it that implicates Trump. Or is always a small chance that it's real, but I don't think so, given how Trump acted in the past and how, given history, I don't think it's real. But I think there's something in there that they've added that implicates him. And that's what she's...
widely reported that the Department of Justice is under scrutiny for not releasing files in which there are accusations that Donald Trump abused a minor girl in the 1990s.
Yep, there. That is the October surprise that Democrats are going to try to take down Trump. But I don't know if they'll even need it, considering how unpopular this Iran war might make him. Let's see. Let's just have a look at some more recent videos to see if anything incredible has happened. Let's see this, and I'm also going to check if there's any live streams that are worth checking out.
It is March 2nd, 2026, and it is 4:45 p.m. local time here in Texas as we are back with more breaking news updates as you have Iran declaring that the Strait of Hormuz is officially closed and that
I might go back to this, but this by Tucker
So it's probably
Carlson.
hasn't been reported, but it's a fact that last night
This seems interesting.
in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, authorities arrested Mossad agents planning on committing bombings in those countries. Now, that's weird.
That is very interesting, isn't
There's
it?
Actually, two other components, two other speed bumps on the way to regional dominance for Israel. The first is something called the GCC. GCC is an informal,
Yeah,
alliance, maybe a little
interesting.
more formal as of today, but it's these 6 Gulf monarchies. It's the energy-producing Gulf states, and those would be Bahrain, Oman, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, and Saudi. And these are some of the biggest, most important energy producers in the world. They're all Sunni Arab states. They are all rich, and all of a sudden, they are all now internationally, or some of them are internationally influential because they are the site of global diplomacy. They
Yep,
are
but no one's going to call Tucker a liberal.
filling the void left by Switzerland, which, not to get too boring about it, but basically took sides in the Russia-Ukraine conflict and is therefore kind of not really a place where people can negotiate in good faith.
You know what? Tucker Carlson might be one of the commenters that's most aligned with me ideologically about most things because, you know, like people like Asmongold, he's bought propaganda about Iran and Ukraine. I mean, he did a fundraiser for Ukraine. That's how badly he bought the propaganda about Ukraine. Whereas Tucker Carlson, yeah, he is skeptical of Israel, just like I am. Of nothing against the Israel people, but the Israel government and Mossad, yeah, those aren't good people.
They are, in effect, controlled by the EU and NATO. They would never admit that, the Swiss, but they are. They give up their banking secrecy. They're basically not.
Yeah, after he got away from Fox, he was able to cover all sorts of topics. It was really good for him.
Not aligned anymore. But some of these Gulf states are as close to non-aligned as you can possibly get. Certainly Qatar is. And all of a sudden, every conflict around the world is being negotiated in Qatar, or most recently in Oman. And so they have a kind of moral authority on the global stage, right? They have very effective diplomacy. People like them. People also go there on vacation. They have the best airlines in the world.
Yeah, I don't know. Their status as an island of security in the Middle East is taking a hit with all these missiles raining down on them.
They're the obvious regional travel hub for the globe. They're literally where East meets West. So if you're flying from New York to Delhi, you're going to stop in Dubai. And they have government-subsidized airlines that are absolutely fantastic. So people have a familiarity, a firsthand familiarity with these countries, which were mysteries to most Westerners 25 years ago. When 9/11 happened, it was the first time I went to the Gulf. Most Americans had never been there unless you were in the oil business or something. You'd never been there. And so you could imagine that it was all belly dancers and camels and slavery or whatever you thought. But all of a sudden,
there are those in some places.
You know, like every other rich person in America has been to Dubai because they're all traveling somewhere. They're going in safari in Africa. So people, it's been demystified to the West, and people like it. These are societies with problems, of course, but they're also orderly and clean and elaborately polite and welcoming.
We in the United States have our own problems. Yeah. Just look at the homeless problem in Los Angeles.
To outsiders and rich and kind of a little less gaudy than you would expect. They're actually some of the most functional societies in the world. And people like them, despite a lot of propaganda. And by the way, despite some complications. There are plenty of things.
I agree with all this, but get to the bombing. The bombing.
Won't like, or some things anyway, and certainly parts of their foreign policy that make you wonder.
Mm-hmm.
But these are not North Korea. They're the opposite. These are actually very civilized countries.
Okay, I think he's getting.
And they're not all on board with Israel's programs because they've got populations that disagree with how Israel has treated the Palestinians. In the case of Saudi
much
Arabia,
everyone.
Mecca and Medina, the two holiest places in Islam. Every Muslim who can is required to go to Saudi Arabia on the Hajj, to go visit Mecca.
Yes, you're right. You appreciate for us that already know this, yes, but he's speaking to the American people. He's speaking to people like Asmongold, trying to say that, that not all Arabs aren't just crazy lunatics. To be fair, there are some that are crazy lunatics, but not all of them.
So these are countries with...
And the crazy lunatics are usually working for us, unfortunately, like the Syrian government.
Inherent power in the Islamic world, growing power globally, and resources. And so they can't be ignored. And if they were ever to get together, if these 6 countries were ever to form, say, like a real military alliance, they would be a massive threat to Israel. So Israel has spent decades fomenting dissent between them, of course.
Of course.
And that's not necessarily just an attack on Israel. I mean,
I will say that there's all this hate in Israel. I do believe that half and half. Half of it is Israel. Half of it is the deep state, the U.S. Treasury using Israel as its agent in the region. Like Israel is using the United States, but the deep state, the U.S. dollar that's running the U.S. dollar hegemony, it's also using Israel to basically prop up the petrodollar, to keep everyone trading in dollars, to keep everyone in the Gulf U.S. aligned. And so Israel is the U.S.'s agent, and that's what gives it so much sway over us, too.
as anyone can tell you who spent time in the Middle East, the Arabs, many great qualities, but love to fight with each other. It's like their favorite hobby. More than camel racing. It's very easy to get Arab nations bickering and fighting. And the distrust goes back a long time, and it's impenetrable to the outsider. But if you were trying to divide 6 countries from each other, it's not that hard. And the Israelis have worked really, really hard to do that. But the truth is, if you really want control of the Middle East, you kind of have to degrade, if not destroy, the Gulf states. And so the Israelis knew, and the Americans knew as well.
If you remember, Greater Israel does include a large part of Saudi Arabia.
Well, maybe not quite as realistic an assessment, but they had some sense. The Israelis definitely knew that if you start lobbing missiles into Iran, and if you start killing the leadership of Iran, and if you were to say kill the head of state / religious leader of one branch of Islam.
Think of it as like killing the Pope or something. You think no way to get. We basically killed their Pope. And they're responding exactly how you'd think they would respond.
The Ayatollah. If you were to do that, it would provoke a military response that would hurt the Gulf badly, and that it would, in some countries...
Yeah, I'm thinking these explosions, Mossad might have done them, and then they'd be blamed on Iranian drones as a way of getting those Gulf states to turn against Iran. That's what I'm thinking. That's the direction he's going, I'm thinking.
Countries like Bahrain, site of the Fifth Fleet, you could potentially stoke like a true revolution, because that country is almost, I think, half Shiite. So you could cause massive chaos in the Gulf if you were to do this. Now, that wasn't a risk from the Israeli standpoint. That was the point. That was the point.
That was a benefit.
They wanted to diminish the Gulf, and in 2 days they have. And I think anyone...
Yeah, if it ends. But if missiles are still raining down on Israel a month from now, after they've run out of interceptors...
One who likes decency and order and cleanliness is hoping that the Gulf will recover. The Gulf is not a threat to us. We have military bases in these countries. These are some of our closest allies. All of them are closer allies than Israel, by far. They're our friends.
Well, Israel is more like our master than our friend. And I say that as joking. I think Israel ultimately like I said, the Treasury's ESF, the dark side of the CIA, it controls Israel, and Israel, and that is what's really holds so much. I think of that side and Israel as nearly the same, one and the same. Like the ESFs I've talked about, the U.S. deep state is tied at the hip with Israel. That's why Israel lobby has so much power in the United States.
But they've been really hurt. And in a place like Dubai, which is basically part of a country, it's an emirate within the United Arab Emirates, but it's also it's a luxury brand, basically. People go to Dubai because it's beautiful and rich and clean, and above all, because it's safe and orderly. It's got the busiest airport in the world. You start seeing video on Instagram of smoke in the Dubai airport, and you're like, I think I'm going to Cabo this year. Whatever. Maybe you go to Sedona this year. It really, really hurts these countries. And Israel wanted to hurt these countries. That's the point. Wanted to hurt these countries. Wanted to sow chaos and disorder because they are rivals of Israel.
Again,
So
get
it probably
back to the
hasn't been
bombing.
reported, but it's a
please.
fact. Last night,
Oh, here we go.
in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, authorities arrested Mossad agents planning on committing bombings in those countries. Now, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense. Why would the Israelis be committing bombings in two Gulf countries, which are also being attacked by Iran? Aren't they on the same side? No. No. Israel wants to hurt.
I'd add another angle to this is Gulf states are probably putting huge amount of pressure on the United States to end the blockade, to end the conflict. So because they're hurting economically, and I think it's the same idea as destroying the Nord 2 pipeline and whatever. If Mossad destroys Gulf oil producing facilities so that they can't export oil even if the Strait of Hormuz wasn't closed, and it was blamed on Iran, that would get those states, it would erase the pressure from those states. They'd be on board with the war against Iran instead.
Iran and Qatar and UAE and Saudi and Bahrain and Oman and Kuwait. And they've succeeded. And the third thing you would have to do if you wanted true control over the region, which as we've established, Israel wants and shouldn't be attacked for wanting. It's a natural thing to want. But the final thing you'd have to do is get the U.S. out of the Middle East. Since 1948, the United States, from Harry Truman till present, U.S. presidents, and as noted with diminishing success, but have tried to constrain or shape Israel's policy.
That's an interesting point. If Israel's trying to disconnect itself from the U.S., and it knows, because it knows about the Ponzi scheme and what the Treasury is doing, that it knows the U.S. is heading for a collapse. And so it's trying to prepare the Middle East for after the United States is basically gone. That's my reframing what he's saying. I think Israel knows the dollar is about to collapse. And it is going to be the biggest drop in U.S. power. It's going to be just like the collapse of the Soviet Union, like 3 times worse. And U.S. projection of power around the world will disappear. And it knows that's coming. So it's doing everything it can to prepare the Middle East for after the United States is gone. That's what might be happening. And if it can weaken, if the United States goes under while Iran is still in full power with all these bombs and this state lined against it, it might be in serious trouble. So that's why, even if it's taking a lot of pain, it wants to weaken everyone around them, so that for that day that America is no longer there.
It's foreign policy. And we have a right to do that because we're the most powerful country in the world.
Well, they said if the Epstein files released, stock markets would crash. Yes, they said that, but if I'd agree that if the original unredacted with everything, all the videos that Epstein took in all his private island and his New York apartment, if all of that had been released, yes, the stock market would have crashed. Yes. What we got was the Epstein Files light. And the Epstein Files light isn't enough to crash the stock market.
Have been since 1945, and also because we pay for it. Israel couldn't exist without us right now. And we give them the defense umbrella. We defend them in their wars. And so why would you want the United States out? Well, because the United States, while not doing a very good job of constraining Israel...
Off with their heads. Good riddance, I say. Yes. I'd mostly agree. Yes, mostly agree, yes. We're talking about the Epstein people, right? Yes. Yep, they're just terrible. I do agree. I do think some people were just roped in against their will. But even then, I don't think we could separate those people from the others, so better to crucify them all.
Has been issuing requests, in any case, to Israel for a long time, and that's very annoying. Imagine if we were getting the same kind of communiques from, I don't know, Ottawa.
Yeah, it is what it is.
You can't do this, you can't do that. We'd say, buzz off at a certain point. Back off, Canada. We're doing what we want. We're a great power. So you have to get the United States out. And this war is designed to do it. Because the Israelis who...
I'd agree with that. We just watched the other thing, that Iran's demand at the end of this is probably going to get U.S.'s base out of the Gulf. The problem is, this is an analysis with Israel focus, like conspiracy, like Israel being the masterminds, whatever. But I'm on the thing that the true mastermind is at the Treasury, the ESF. Or there could be both. There could be those in... It's two different parties. It's hard to know. We're just speculating. But we know there's an actor that's behind who ran Iran-Contra. Those who were ran Iran-Contra. Let's call that one group. Then we have Netanyahu, the second group. That second group is part of the dollar hegemony by enforcing the petrodollar in the Middle East. That's Israel's role in the U.S. empire. But I don't think there's a clean break for Israel, because they depend on us too heavily. And I think that, yes, it might be an attempt to prepare the Middle East, like I said just a second ago, but I don't think it'll work. Just because they're trying doesn't mean it worked. Like, they tried to stop Trump from getting elected. That failed too. They're trying to beat Russia with Ukraine. It didn't work. I think this is a system that's desperate and trying Hail Mary passes, and the Hail Mary passes aren't working. Like Ukraine and now Iran. I got set up on my phone, so I'll keep watching, but I got to drive now. Yep, thanks. I'll appreciate your perspective here, really. Well, I find all this fascinating, and this is it makes me think of back to the 2008 financial crisis, when basically the financial world was crashing. It's the best time to study what's going on and figuring out how the world actually works. Because when you have all these different pressure points and conflict, you watch everything carefully, you can get a really good sense of how everything is actually set up.
Who are very well aware of domestic American politics know that there is no appetite whatsoever for casualties among the American public.
Oh, yeah. No appetite. Well, I'm curious what the actual casualties are at this point, because it's more than 3. Everyone knows that. And that's why Trump's so screwed. The only way to win, quote unquote, the Iran war, have regime change in Iran that to something that favors the United States, is boots on the ground. And it's one thing that Trump is never prepared to do. And if he did do it, the left already hates him, and a huge part of his base would hate him too. He's just in such a bad spot. And he's in a bad spot that gets worse with each passing day. I can't believe someone didn't try to warn him, but I think he's surrounded by neocons, or basically Iran-Contra agents, or you know, the Treasury people that are running U.S. hegemony, that need, same ones that are going after Russia. They're going after Russia, Iran, and China are three nations that are hoarding gold, that aren't on board with the U.S. dollar system. They are the three huge threats to the dollar. Venezuela was a tiny threat. I mean, not really. It was a mess of a country. It had a lot of oil, but apart from that, it was a mess of a country. But Iran, China, and Russia are the three pillars that are threatening the U.S. hegemony of the world. And you have smaller players like North Korea that has no economic impact, does no relevance. So those three are the only ones that matter. And it's tried going after Russia with Ukraine, and it's now going after Iran. And it's you know that China is in the sights of Trump and the U.S., but they just don't have the power to do anything.
That this war did not have anything approaching majority support. In fact, it had small minority support, and that's shrunk even in 36 hours. And that this would cause a political crisis in the United States, and that it would most critically convince our Arab allies in the region, meaning really the Gulf states and Jordan, poor Jordan, wonderful country, it would convince them that the United States is a bad ally. Why? Because the second you hit Iran, and the Persians are not stupid at all, you know that they're going to hit American.
Yeah, but is Trump smart enough to know that? Is he? No, he didn't know that. Because no one told him, and he thought that just killing the supreme leader would not be enough for regime change. That's how deluded, and I'd say deluded, but also propagandized. He has people feeding him bad info, and that's how they're controlling him. And yeah,
bases in those countries, which they have, except Oman. But in the other 6 they have, and you know those countries are not going to be defended by the United States. And they haven't been.
To be fair, that's because of Ukraine, because we've sent so many interceptors to Ukraine that there isn't enough air defenses for the Gulf states. That's true. So there might have been people in middle. Okay, let's put it this way. If it had happened 3 years ago, the air defenses of all those allied states would be several times tougher with much greater reserves, and we could have rushed over more missiles, and we could have sustained, protected them. Not completely, but fairly decently for probably like 6 months or so, or with all our stockpile. But then Ukraine war happened and completely depleted our reserves. And that's why this situation exists.
Very well. Some of these countries are on fire right now, and they feel completely vulnerable. And they are low and not letting loose with any operational secret that you can't find on the internet. They're running low on missile defense. And so a country like Saudi or UAE or Qatar, Bahrain or Kuwait, I mean, they're all right on the Gulf directly.
And U.S. is providing all this missile support, missile defense for Israel. And that must really sting these states.
Across from Iran, they live on their energy production, and that's being damaged, and no one's protecting them. A Saudi Aramco facility went up last night. Saudi Aramco being the longtime joint U.S.-Saudi energy production company, biggest oil company in the world. And part of it's on fire today. The Iranians said they didn't do it. Why would they say they didn't do it? Well, possible Israel did it. Why wouldn't they?
If they've discovered 2 different places where Mossad agents were bombing oil infrastructure, then it's very possible. Then there must have been places where they didn't catch the guys, and these Mossad agents actually bombed the oil infrastructure. And I think it's to force. It's what they did in Europe. If you remember the Nord Stream, they bombed the Nord Stream because like people in Germany probably pushing to not close Nord Stream because they knew what that would do to the country's industrial base. It would basically decimate Germany's industrial base if they stop using Nord Stream. And so there was huge pressure for that in Germany from industry. But you had the EU leaders and basically the U.S. military industrial complex that was going after Russia and wanted the Ukraine war and wanted to hurt Russia. So they didn't want Germany to buy oil from Russia. So what do? They bombed the Nord Stream that carries oil to Germany.
Kunzi.
Greets from Germany. Oh, hiya, Kunzi. How's it going? I was just coincidentally talking about Germany and the Nord Stream. And it's how, in order to counteract the German industry that was very against closing Nord Stream, they bombed it. So that even if industry pushed for it, it's destroyed. You can't. It's the way they force compliance. I think the same idea with these bombing attempts in the Middle East against oil infrastructure of Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and all these other places. Mossad bombs them so they're not operating. So it doesn't even matter if the Strait of Hormuz is closed anymore. If you can't produce oil, it can. And if they can blame it on Iran, it makes them on board. I heard it. I completely agree with you, my friend. Yep. And I'm sorry with how it looks right now. Unless the EU backtracks and goes for Russian gas and oil, this closure of this Iranian conflict is going to hurt Europe the hardest, Germany especially. We'll have to see how long it lasts and if things go well, but God, it's a mess. It's
Because if you think about it, scaring our other allies in the region, letting them know that they can get attacked and the U.S. will not defend you. You put up with all this crap for decades because you got American troops on your soil and your population doesn't like it, but you do it anyway because you've been told if there was ever a problem, the U.S. will come rescue you. Well,
Germany's in the same position. There's so many places that have U.S. bases. It's amazing, but it's necessary if you're a world hegemon projecting your military power everywhere. But I'm very curious if this lasts in Ukraine, what's going to happen. I'm sorry, if this lasts with Iran, what's going to happen in Ukraine. I'll tell you what it's like if things continue like this. Things will soon be quite gloomy and dark in Germany. I find it really bad and weak. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure gas reserves are below normal at this time of the year. And where are you going to get the gas to for next winter and even for, it's... But maybe somehow this will lead to an end of Ukraine, and Germany will be able to buy gas from Russia. And why I say that is that Ukraine's situation is going to hurt Ukraine. All air defenses are being redirected to the Gulf right now. All missiles are being redirected to the Gulf right now. I think the Trump was talking about providing Tomahawks to Ukraine. I'm thinking that's on pause if it was going forwards because he's going to need those. Where else do you come from, my friend? Are you English or somewhere else? I lived in Switzerland for 9 years, and then I've lived the rest of most of my life in the States. I lived in Russia for 2 years at one point, and that's about it. Unfortunately, I didn't learn Russian because it's, oh my God, it's a difficult language to learn. But that's about it, and so that's my background. And during the financial crisis, I wrote about it and blogged about it, and things I found out shaped my views on the world. It's I'll get into that another time since we're on the Iran, but there is a deep state, and its heart is inside the U.S. Treasury's secret slush fund called the Exchange Stabilization Fund. That's what I learned. And no one even knows about that. So we still have a ways to go. I've been very excited since the end of COVID because all these things that previously, like Pizzagate, are coming to light. And I mean, there's nothing worse than knowing Pizzagate is real and no one else knowing about it. That sucks. Thank you for the short but proper conversation. We'll hear each other out. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I'm sometimes uneducated, but I don't know where that quote is from, so I'm going to Google it. Oh. Well, it's...
Guess what we just learned? The U.S. is not coming to rescue you.
I don't know.
There are
Sorry.
hundreds of thousands of Americans.
But, yeah, it was nice chatting you, Kunzi, and I hope you stick around, or if you're enjoying yourself.
Civilians caught in the Middle East tonight can't get out.
Yeah.
And the governments of those countries are panicked.
Oh, imagining you're on vacation like Bahrain or somewhere and all this stuff happens and now no flights out. Oh my God. And missiles raining down. Well, it's pretty exciting. I imagine that beginning is pretty exciting if it's just a day or two. And, it's like being snowed in at a ski resort and your vacation is extended. But that's only for the first few days. It's going to become very scary after that.
They're enraged. And the message to them is the U.S. is not a reliable partner. What's the point of this partnership? What's the point of allowing you to have an air base in my country if when missiles come raining down or...
It's amazing how good translators have gotten these days. And with that's one thing. One thing I really love AI for is translation. I'm perfectly okay with translating text with AI. I don't think anyone should be against that.
Drones attack our airport, our international airport, you're not going to do anything about it. That's how they feel, and you can understand why they do. So what's the message to them? There's no upside in dealing with the United States.
I agree with what Proton Snail said earlier in that it's really good. Tucker is really good at portraying the everyday man and explaining things to everyday man in America. Like, what is the outlook of someone like in Bahrain, for example, the average citizen there, and the leadership there.
United States. There's no upside in foreign investment in the United States. You go to any of these countries, you just go to the airport, go to a restaurant. Who do you run into? American businessmen. And some of them have good ideas. Some of them have ideas that are so stupid that they couldn't sell them in Silicon Valley. They couldn't go to VCs in the United States and raise the money. So they go to the Gulf.
And that's why you have Gulf states like buying esports teams or esports leagues and making really strange investments. It's funny.
And it's not that the Gulf Arabs are dumb. In some sense, they're doing this because they see the United States as their only real ally. And so they're investing in American business ventures. A lot.
Yep.
Hundreds of billions of dollars.
And basically the continuation of the dollar as a reserve currency depends on this, a continuous inflow from the rest of the world. If you have a net outflow from dollar, from the U.S. financial system as a whole, that's when all chaos breaks loose.
And part of that is economic calculation. They think these companies...
And what could cause that? Well, if the Gulf nation starts trading in renminbi or like, a currency other than dollar, that might make a lot of people start so they can buy oil, move their money out of the United States. It would have a huge impact.
These are going to grow and they're going to make money.
Petrodollar is a real thing.
Friendship. You're our ally and have been all these years since the British left. What do they think now? Well, they don't feel that way quite as much. Because for them, this is very serious. I mean, these countries don't grow their own food. So if you close the airport and Persian Gulf and the Red Sea are closed, in effect, where do you get?
Fatah 2 unveiled. Let's find out a little bit more about Fatah 2.
As missiles rain across...
It's their latest missile out of Iranian's most advanced missile. And I haven't heard many details about it yet because most of the world doesn't know. So let's see what's new.
Across the Middle East, Iran flaunts a new era of strike power that could redraw every red line in the region. Fatah 2, Tehran's latest war machine, is being billed as the hypersonic sword to avenge Khamenei's killing. Screaming in at around Mach 15, the Fatah 2 promises to put...
You have to think that of the Iranians that have spent decades building all these missiles, and they're all thinking, oh, this is finally the chance to get isn't it satisfying when your work gets appreciated and it's validated? It's nothing worse than doing a lot of work and it's never used for anything. So there's going to be there's probably a big part of Iran that's joyful at this opportunity to rain down these bombs.
To every US ally in the Middle East within Iran's crosshairs. THAAD, Patriot.
And to an extent, yeah, you should be proud of your nation's military power.
Arrow. The West's best shields may suddenly look fragile against Iran's new Top Gun in the sky. As missile barrages rock the Middle East, Iran has signaled a new era in its strike capability with its latest hypersonic weapon. Tehran has marked a major milestone in its arsenal with the first documented combat launch of the Fateh 2 hypersonic missile. Fateh 2 is an upgraded successor to the original Fateh, equipped with a hypersonic glide vehicle designed for extreme speed and maneuverability. This advanced glide vehicle allows the missile to maneuver in both pitch and yaw, enabling it to approach targets from unexpected directions.
Interceptor systems, they assume that like a incoming missile will stay in its trajectory right up to like its arc. Like if it's arcing across down like this, they're assuming it'll keep going right until it hits a target right here. If it's in this path, they assume it's like what a lot of systems are. What Iran and Russia have begun doing is as their missile approaches, it starts doing like this to hit this target. It veers suddenly at the final phase, and that's how it completely messes up U.S. interceptors and other systems. Basically, as you get to it, it starts zigzagging. And that's apparently what the Fateh 2 is good at.
By flying a shallow glide path inside the atmosphere at hypersonic speeds, the missile becomes significantly harder for air defenses to track and intercept. Iran's Revolutionary Guard released dramatic footage of the system in action on February 28th, showcasing its claimed hypersonic performance. However, it was not immediately clear whether the Fateh 2 was used against targets in Israel or against US bases located in Arab countries. Ski, a vice president at Israel's Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, has warned that Fateh 2 and similar weapons fundamentally challenge traditional air and missile defense concepts. Yuval Ski, the vice president of Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, said, and I quote, "Every air defense system today is based on flying faster than the target. But this principle does not apply to hypersonic missiles. To intercept an object moving at Mach 10, one would need a defense moving at Mach 30, which is impossible in the atmosphere due to friction," unquote. Fateh and Fateh.
That's one reason hypersonic missiles are so hard to intercept, is basically their speed. And yeah, you'd need to design a new system, that new architecture to intercept those type of missiles. I'm sure they'll eventually figure something out, but right now there's really no great defense against it.
Fateh 2 are typically deployed against high-value, high-technology targets such as advanced radar and air defense systems. Their use on the battlefield signals the IRGC's willingness to escalate further and serves as a powerful show of force to Iran's adversaries. However, analysts note that the exact number of Fateh and Fateh 2 missiles currently in operational service remains unknown. According to Military Watch magazine, the Fateh 2 is significantly more expensive to produce than older systems like the Khorramshahr ballistic missile. Hypersonic glide vehicle that twists mid-flight, Fateh 2 is built to outsmart enemy air defenses. Screaming in at up to Mach 15, this missile closes the gap on its targets in seconds. With a reach of up to 1,400 kilometers.
My guess is they're saving it for if they ever have if they find out about a really juicy target, they might use a Fateh 2. And I think they also are this is known that a lot of what they're sending is older missiles. I think they're doing that just to deplete air defenses. Because while they're probably confident in Fateh 2, if you've already weakened air defenses, so there's maybe like, instead of 2 interceptor arrays firing missiles, there's 1, it has still a much better chance of getting through.
Fateh 2 can strike deep inside hostile territory. Its 2-stage design, a powerful booster kicking a maneuvering glide vehicle into flight, gives it both.
Also, if I was Iran, one thing I would do is I would definitely keep a big batch of missiles for one specific purpose. That is, if Iranian oil infrastructure. I haven't looked up about that. That'll be my next thing. I'm actually curious how badly it's been hurt so far. If, like, the United States goes in and completely levels Iranian oil infrastructure, I would then take that reserve of missiles and completely level the oil infrastructure of every other player in the Gulf. That's what I would do. And so, and I would, to the extent, I don't know if, I think Iran has attacked, or maybe it was Mossad, as we saw with Tuckervid's video, it doesn't matter. But more or less, overall, the oil infrastructure of U.S. allies in the region is, like Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, is overall intact and not heavily damaged. But that's one escalation line, one red line I would keep, is if you completely bomb our oil infrastructure, it will completely destroy yours. And that means if I'm Iran, I need to keep a reserve of missiles, maybe these Fatah 2 including, for if I need to level the oil infrastructure of other countries in the region.
Brute thrust and sharp steering. A low radar profile and blistering speed make it far harder to spot, track, and shoot down. Liquid fuel propulsion on the glide vehicle allows Fatah 2 to stay controllable.
I actually haven't read anything about that, and I actually think about attacks, U.S. attacks on Iran oil infrastructure, because I think that's because we haven't really attacked them yet, because just that dynamic I warned, I talked about that there. If we did attack Iranian oil infrastructure, it would 100% they'd retaliate. Okay, I'll finish this video. It's short. And then I want to look up about Iran's oil infrastructure, what we've done to that. If I was US, I might do just something to maybe enough to shut it down, but not really damage it. That's what I would do if I was the United States, because that wouldn't spark a huge retaliation if it was something that was easily repairable. We'll have to see.
Even at extreme hypersonic velocities. 4 Patriot, THAAD, and Arrow systems. This is the nightmare target. Fast, low, and constantly changing course. The Fatah missile first entered combat on June 18, 2025, when it struck Israeli positions in the early hours of the morning. The IRGC claimed that the weapon successfully punched through Israel's much-vaunted multi-layered missile defense systems. Launched as part of Operation True Promise 3, the
you see right there,
missile defense systems. Launched as...
This is right here showing Iran's miles and miles of underground missile, storage that they have. It's there. You can't bomb them if they're deep underground in long tunnels like this, even if you hit one party. Just a huge... Yeah, there's no way to get them. And that's what's raining down on the Gulf.
As part of Operation True Promise 3, the strike was billed as retaliation for earlier Israeli air raids on targets inside Iran. The Guards hailed Fatah's debut as the beginning of the end for what they called Israel's mythical missile shield. Iran's newer Fatah 2 system is now believed to be capable of breaching Israeli air defenses with near impunity. By contrast, US-made Patriot long-range air defense systems have reportedly failed to stop several incoming Iranian missiles. In one widely shared clip, at least 3 MIM-104 Patriot interceptor missiles can be seen launching and then missing their target. Military Watch magazine highlighted this footage on February 28th, linking it to Iranian attacks around Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar.
Yep. The Patriot system was good for its time, but it's pretty old. Patriot system. Developed year. It began in 1960s and it entered full-scale production in 1976. That's the problem with all our military basically is really old. Like carriers are old, our missile defense system is old. You'd think that in the last 50 years we would have developed some more advanced missile system, but U.S. is a power in decline, so we're relying on older systems, and Russia and China are creating newer ones. We still have this huge legacy military, but Ukraine and Iran are draining it quickly. Anyway, let's see about Iran oil infrastructure. Yeah. But how is it? Iran targets oil infrastructure, but what about Iranian oil infrastructure? I haven't heard any attacks about Iranian oil infrastructure. Maybe this is it. This is, and it's a pay article. Great. And also, Tucker Carlson was talking about reasons why Mossad might be bombing oil infrastructure of Gulf, like Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. I just thought of another reason. It's to give the U.S. an excuse to bomb Iran's oil infrastructure. That's another big reason Mossad would do it. Is right now, if let's say before all this happened, if the United States goes in and bombs Iranian oil infrastructure, like I said before, the obvious response is Iran bombs everyone else's oil infrastructure. So the United States, they're all telling the United States, don't do that. And so how could you give the United States an opening to bomb Iran's oil infrastructure? Well, if Mossad goes in and does all these explosions, as Tucker Carlson was talking about, in Saudi Arabia's oil facility, and blames that on Iran, Saudi Arabia believes Iran is already attacking its infrastructure, then it might give U.S. the go-ahead to, quote-unquote, retaliate and destroy Iran's oil infrastructure. Which, oh my God, that happened, what would happen to oil prices. And, okay, let's find the next video. Da-da-da. I'll refresh this and see if there's a good live stream that we can... I want a live stream just to see if there's anything, any breaking developments. Oh, let's watch a little bit of Timcast.
You can practice on Sundays. There's no Chick-fil-A on Sunday.
And like,
I'm curious about what his take on all this is. I know he goes closer to Tucker or closer to Asmongold.
There's a zombie apocalypse. Like, why would you want to be alive?
Is he buying the propaganda about Iran?
He's your boy, and he's a zombie now. Like, he can't even like hang out.
Is he even really still your boy, though?
Or are they talk about anything
further away from the U.S.? It's much closer to where Russia's missiles would be coming from. So it does make sense that they would be like, hey, you know, we want to be able to position these types of technologies up there.
Well, and when the Golden Dome agreement was, or when it was like announced, they also said the Canadians are in. The Canadians want it as well. We're just going to build it for them. So we're literally.
Well, let's.
I think the Iranians know that the Emiratis and the Saudis have played a duplicitous game. That they have.
By the way, if anyone watching has a link to an interesting video about this conflict in Iran, I'm all game.
Tried to play both sides to the middle, as we say. So I don't think the Iranians regret any of that. And I think they want to make the world feel pain because they are feeling acute pain. So that's not surprising in the least. As far as the Europeans are concerned, they've known from the very beginning Iran presents no threat. You know, that was laughable when...
Okay, let's watch this live stream. Jumping around. Yes, this is what I want. Something breaking. Iranian missile impacts in
while flying
Manama.
over Kuwaiti territory. They may not.
Oh, okay.
But also...
Let's have a look. The speed at which Iran's Fatah 2 hypersonic missile destroyed its target has become a topic of discussion worldwide. Wow. You have to watch out because there is artificial AI these days, so this could always be AI. That's the one thing. Hey Grok, is this real? Let's see. What does Grok say? Claimed as destroying its target. Recent report confirms Iran launched Fatah series missiles in retaliation for strikes. However, this specific clip's authenticity, location, and link to hypersonic performance aren't verified by independent sources. So, but that is a partial authentication in that it's there's no obvious AI element to this. So this is really interesting. Let's watch it with sound. Oh, maybe. Yep. That's definitely okay. Since we're here, let's see Kfata 2 and see if there's any more footage of it. No, that's things. Iran's war strategy: blind, deplete, overwhelm. Cost asymmetry trap. Yes, they're using really cheap drones to force defending nations to use expensive air defense systems to counter them. And then they held back systems to overwhelm them afterwards. That is what they have been doing. Real footage of an Iranian missile test. Not fake, not AI. But the caption from the pro-Palestinian account is pure fantasy. Okay.
Screaming in at around Mach used against
Well, I'd rather video footage of an actual use. While Iran is using old stockpiles missiles to deplete missile defense systems in the area, they'll soon be showcasing Fatah 2. Yep. They haven't.
That was fast. Whoa, did you see that? That was fast. That looked...
Ah, look how you run. All right, listen to that sound. Shaking it. Another one. Ah! Oh.
That sounds like a very American voice. I wonder who's taking that video. I bet Shu sees through it. Okay. This video is not real. Yeah, that's the problem. Let's go back to the live stream that I was watching because
it doesn't mean they didn't. They may have had one on the ground, but not have taken it from the seat, depending on.
Okay, breaking. Iranian ballistic missile impacts Mamnama, Bahrain. Let's see the beginning.
Lockie says, in the footage of the downed F-15 pilots, none of them seem to have a weapon. Is that just movie stuff? Surely they'd be able to pick an SMG or pack an SMG or pistol. No, I know for a fact that pilots do have often weapon systems under the seats. I wouldn't, because I know that there was a contract that was going on picking a new weapon system that had to, one of the considerations was the length of the system had to be able to fit in under the ejection seat. So they would absolutely have a weapon in that plane. I'd be pretty sure of it. They may have had one on the ground, but not. I don't know if you're quoting me. I didn't. Multiple loud explosions. Let me duck back, see if. Can we get a bit of a respect to AMK for putting in astronomical hours for reporting in the last how many hours? 72 hours?
Yeah. Whoever is looking through Twitter, I guess.
Says, do we know why Iranian air defense is so shit? There's a few reasons for this. Firstly, degradation in the 12-day war. We don't know how much got damaged in the 12-day war. We know a lot of it from not only air seed and deed missions, but also from spike systems and agents on the ground and partisans on the ground. So we do know a lot was taken out in 12-day war. We don't know how much was delivered to Iran. Also, one of the biggest things with air defense is the operators of the systems too. The S-300 is a very capable system. We know that. But it does come down to the operations and the suppression of the system too. It is a far older system. So there's a lot of factors in this. It doesn't appear, we have seen no actual evidence that the rumored Chinese air defense systems had been delivered, and we hadn't seen evidence of mass replacement of air defense systems following the 12-day war. So I think that tells us a lot. But what I will say is there is still not complete movement and freedom of movement in the sky above Tehran.
I think some of their air defense was hidden and only came up after the war started. So I think you're not completely safe if you're flying over if you're a U.S. pilot flying over Iran.
Now, do the Americans and the Israelis have air dominance? Of course.
Oh, in the clip, I think that's an American air base location. Well, we'll have confirmation of that eventually. Actually, let's go back and see if there's more response that can give us more details. Sad that every question has this, asking, is this real? Hey, Grok, is this real? It's true. Every video has that question in it. But it's a good way to eliminate the obvious fakes. Let's see. Because if this person is posting video footage, of course they'll have more of them. What's this one? Iran continue to Dubai. Okay.
But are we seeing freedom of absolute movements, planes flying around everywhere? We're not seeing that also. We did see this in the 12-day war. We did see...
Okay, we got that.
Than actually the system in the...
President Trump was asked by a news station on if he's worried about other potential attacks on U.S. sites. His response, it's part of war. It's part of war, whether people like it or not. That's the way it is. Yeah, but you started this war.
Yeah.
He's starting to sound like Lindsey Graham.
Wish you to do a PhD in Austria. I'm not going to do a PhD in Austria. A lot of work.
Okay, I am now curious. Well, I'll let this play while I'm getting it.
Right.
So
let's have a look, see what else is coming through. We do have the H guys in Lebanon. They have really picked up strikes.
Insane developments, and that's why you're here. You're here for the breakdown.
Launching systems into the north of Israel.
I've seen how Asmongold is covering this. I'm curious how Nux is covering it. In case you can't tell, I stole the shape of his eyes for my model.
Unbiased. That was a lie. Very biased. I want America to kill them. Anyway, we have lots to talk about today.
Well, that practically answers my question, but let's still watch a little bit more. He's probably going to focus more on the bombing of Iran, which I haven't looked into as much. So it'll be good to see.
Gulf countries are allying with us against Iranian terrorism. That's pretty insane. The only people on Iran's side right now are leftists in America, like Hassan Piker and...
That is incorrect. I am definitely not a leftist. I wouldn't say I'm on Iran's side, but... Yeah, if I had to choose a side in this war, yes, I'd be on Iran's side, because there was no reason for the United States to start this war.
Fat communist women, and also, suspiciously, England, which is seemingly running defense for Iran. No one saw this one coming. Hezbollah was activated. It's a...
No, I'm not strongly on Iran's side. It's more like... Yes, we are the aggressors in this thing. So I have to say, it's not like I'm rooting heavily against the United States. It's just, that's what I think. I think the United States is going to end up losing this, or is going to be badly hurt by this. Yeah, neither is Shu, really. No, that's an old call.
Crazy situation. And honestly, we got to do the deep dive that no one else is going to, because quite literally insane stuff is happening on the world scale. First, I have to show you a little bit of a difference between presidentes. See, this was Barunkus Obungus, previous presidente. This is Donald.
Yes, and Donald Trump, there's a good chance he gets impeached over this war, because Democrats have been trying to get something to impeach him over, and he's handed them something on a golden platter with this Iran war, because... I mean, even Republicans, like, how can you argue if this is a long war, if it requires boots on the ground? When did being anti-wasteful war become anti-American? Well, I'm talking about, like, I am definitely not on the same page as Asmongold and Nuxtaku on this. And they basically all supported because they bought the propaganda about Iran, about... Nuxtaku has covered Israel so much, and Hamas, and Gaza, and all that. Like, all these videos, he had an entire series calling out Hassan Piker. Never once did he mention Israel's role in funding Hamas. So, I have been wondering, does he not know, or is he being silent about it? And from what I know about Nuxtaku, I think it's more likely that he just doesn't know. I mean, when I talk about role in funding Hamas, it's just for anyone who's watching doesn't know, Israel. Please support Hamas. There's an entire wiki page about it. For years, Netanyahu propped out Hamas. Now it's blown up in his face. How Israel secretly propped up Hamas. How Israel propped up Hamas, and even more... Oh, come on. Mossad. Head. Qatar. Hamas. Beg. Netanyahu sent Mossad head general to Qatar to beg it to pay Hamas in February 2020. I don't think Nuxtaku knows about that. I honestly don't. I think it would actually, not maybe drastically, but it would influence his outlook on things if instead of, he believes Iran's responsible for October 7th. If he knew that it was Qatar at the request of Mossad that was funding Hamas, it might change his opinion of things.
El Donald Trumpo, current presidente. That was in Spanish for those of you that have jumped over the Mexican border and wanted to watch my videos. Anyway, let me show you a little difference between presidentes.
Inspectors will monitor Iran's key nuclear facilities 24 hours a day, 365 days a
receipt
year.
matters.
Spoilers, that didn't happen. They ended up enriching.
Yeah, exactly. Israel. That's what I was mentioning here. And what you're saying, Israel funded Hamas directly in the past. It came directly from the Israeli taxpayer. I agree with that. That's what it is at that time where I gave up on the Middle East peace process. I was following it up to, for a while when they were having all this negotiations, Bill Clinton or then Bush and whatever. But when I found out that Hamas was actually Israel was actually funding Hamas with its own money, a terrorist organization like devoted to destruction of Israel, and it was funding them for the purpose of killing this two-state solution. That's how much they wanted to stop it. I mean, what hope is there for peace in the Middle East if that's true? I mean, that if Israel is that against a two-state solution. But apparently, and this makes complete sense, is funding Hamas directly is probably not really wasn't probably politically popular in Israel. So Qatar took over the role at Israel's request of funding Hamas. And so that's why you have Netanyahu sends Mossad head general to Qatar. But at the beginning, there was no Qatar. It was just Israel funding Hamas.
Iranian.
For decades to come.
9/11, I have covered 9/11, but World Poppy Production. I'm just going to show you. Afghanistan is responsible for more than 80% of the global opium production. Let's look at this right here. Big drop to Taliban ban before the U.S. invasion deposed them at the end of 2001. Yeah, so right in 2000, this group called the Taliban. Okay, look at that funny clip. We just allow this. What is this? Relevant. I need to catch up on chat. Some even theorize that it was done in similar fashion, but I don't know. Yeah, that's not like Israel supports it, but that doesn't mean it isn't advantageous. Okay, look at that funny clip. I got auto mode. Sorry about that, Nade the Shade. ISIS has never attacked Israel, and former Mossad have been caught part of ISIS. Yes. You have the ISIS that took over Syria, and they're getting along perfectly well with Israel. Let me just grab something quickly. My YouTube channel. Go to playlists. Old videos.
Small subset of these people.
That's not what I wanted. How did that happen? Few full playlists. This one here. Yeah, here we go. This one. There's another thing. Some people know about opium production dropping drastically right in Afghanistan right before 9/11, but there's one element that a lot more people don't know.
Yes, but the key.
No, that's not what I was looking for. This is my series of videos on the ESF, and I just wanted. Here we go. Basically, let's talk about how we got all this heroin and the CIA was involved in Afghanistan. But the part I wanted to do. Here we go. This was a wonderful tool that no longer exists called Google Archive News. And you could search for something. It'd give you the years stuff came out and all the links. I used this so much when it existed. I miss it so bad. But anyway, you see here this articles from 1999, before September 11th. Bin Laden's organization known as Al-Qaeda bankrolled operation with proceeds of the heroin trade. It was a heroin trade organization that engaged in terrorism on the side. Reports show it is one of the most powerful heroin smuggling organizations, known as Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda was all this poppies from Afghanistan, got to the United States. The organization that moved it, that sold it, the drug trafficking cartel, was Al-Qaeda. So take that together. You have this drug organization called Al-Qaeda. Then you have the Taliban that destroy all drug production in Afghanistan in 2001. And then the United States attacks and restores it. It's that's one thing. Another thing that's blacklisted is the fact that Al-Qaeda was a drug trafficking organization.
Defectors will have access to Iran's entire nuclear supply chain.
Spoilers! That didn't happen. They ended up enriching uranium to past 60%.
In other words, if Iran tries to cheat, if they
technically,
but they cheated after the agreement collapsed, though, if I remember right.
Then we blew them up.
So the bottom line is this: whereas Iran was steadily,
Nuksaku had a family member that died in October 7th, and he is Jewish, so he is a little bit biased. He's understandably biased, is the way I would put it. But he is still. If he learned the stuff about Netanyahu funding Hamas, it would definitely affect his outlook. I wish there was a way to communicate that to him. I just don't know how to. I really like to have a conversation with one major streamers just to set the record straight on some things. It's my eventual goal.
expanding its nuclear program. We have now cut off every single path that Iran could have used to build a bomb. Whereas it would have taken Iran 2 to 3 months to break out with enough material to rush to a bomb, we've now extended that breakout time to a year. and with the world's unprecedented
This is an interesting. I want more recent stuff.
Unity.
Thousands have been doing it. Be stopped. And Donald Trump said,
You know what? I never listen to Trump's speeches. I listen. It's just because either I agree with what he's saying, and I know how he says it. Yeah, I just don't listen to it. And I support the general gist of a lot of what he does, excepting recently, especially with Ukraine and Iran. But domestically, mostly I support what he does.
That has to be pulled off. You got armies in these Arab states. They have their own.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of Jews and families and Jews would be horrified. This causes real death, real ruination of lives. I'd say same for U.S. citizens. If they'd known some of the things the U.S. has done, like one thing, like if my series of videos that I made about the ESF had a part 6, and if anyone's in chat that wants to know, this is the culmination of after watching reporting on the 2008 financial crisis. This is where everything I learned led me to. Well, getting back, if there was a part 6, I would dive more into one Dr. Anthony Fauci, HIV. Dr. Anthony Fauci was a key leader in the U.S. response to the HIV/AIDS epidemic from the emergency in 1981, serving as NIAID director. He helped transform AIDS from a death sentence to a manageable degrees. He was the one that pushed that ultra-lethal medication. Because if you've watched my series of videos, you know that,
wrong for the ES.
Let's get to that part.
Reporter.
I need to get more familiar with my videos so I can jump to the right section right away. I do mention about HIV. Basically, the United States started pumping all these drugs into the United States in the 1980s. I'll just give a summary. I can't find the specific clip right now. And it started killing a lot of people. People started dying. You pump the United States full of heroin and cocaine, and that's has health implications. You had people whose immune system was collapsing. And the section I was looking for in my video that I'll have to rewatch them to actually know them again. It's been so long. The earliest articles on it, there was no HIV. It was just, doing lots of heroin will destroy your immune system. That was the reporting. It wasn't a disease. It was a lifestyle that was causing all these people to die of AIDS. That was the original reporting. Then suddenly, this guy, Anthony Fauci, and the whole establishment came in and said, oh, no, all these people aren't dying from the heroin in the needles. It's this little virus that's on the needle that's killing everyone. And everyone here that's in chat knows someone that was tested positive for HIV, and a lot of them died, So how could, if HIV doesn't really cause AIDS, why did all these people who tested positive to HIV die? Well, this Dr. Anthony Fauci pushed a drug that basically destroys your immune system. It causes AIDS because HIV supposedly lives in red blood cells. So in order to fight HIV, this medicine attacks red blood cells. And red blood cells produce your immune system. So even someone who's not HIV positive that was given the medication back then, I'll have to, I don't remember its name. Anyone who was given this medication, it's a death sentence. Even if you've never tested positive for HIV, you'll die of AIDS in a few years if you take this medication. So that is Dr. Anthony Fauci. And that is the same Dr. Anthony Fauci that funded the development of a coronavirus in China. Because it's Wuhan Fengling provided his health department funded the development of bat coronavirus at Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, even Hassan Piker, let's give that example, admits that the 2020 election universal mail-in ballots, universal mail-in voting, determined the outcome of the 2020 election. And why did we have mail-in voting back then? Because of COVID. So you have to think, this guy, if this whole system, dollar Ponzi goes down, he gets exposed as, how many people do you think got tested positive for HIV and then took this medication and died? How much blood do you think he has on his hands? Well, it's pretty strong motivation to not have that happen, to not have Trump be reelected. And you haven't developed a virus in Wuhan. And on top of that, he was very against the lab theory at the beginning. I wonder why. I'm just saying that, personally, I don't have any evidence of this. I wasn't researching at the time, but I think it's more likely than not that coronavirus was intentionally released on the world. I don't have any guarantees, but I just say, if I was betting, I'd say better chance 50% that with the timing of its release, right in time to determine 2020 presidential election.
Missile defense.
Sorry if that's that's a little bit out there, but I was. I thought maybe some people find it interesting.
Yeah, we have our units.
Yeah.
On the other side, you also have
Unfortunately,
Israel.
mistakes happen in war. Kuwait, which is our ally over here, actually, believe it or not, shot down 2 of our planes. Thank God our people are okay, which is the most important. However, mistakes happen in war. They happen in all wars. It's a devastating loss. We lost 3 planes, but we're still...
And that, I'm just mentioning that. The one reason I'm mentioning this is that it scales everything that I think. Everyone talks about really true evil, whatever. You're saying, oh, the Ayatollah was true evil. Well, if there's better than 50% that there's a group out there that intentionally released COVID on the world, that group would be true evil. It basically it shapes your perception if you become aware of that possibility.
Well,
and people watching that haven't gone through all the evidence I have, just keep in mind that it's a possibility.
Massively in the lead. You see, thank God.
Another reason, think of everything that's come up with Epstein. Those type of people, the pizza people, the people that have torture chambers. Do you think they would hesitate about releasing something like the coronavirus on the world?
Our enemies, Iranian missile launchers, are not exactly doing the thing. They're doing their best. So far, they have yet to take down a single one of our planes. The only planes we actually lost were the friendly show. Serious, bro? Are you serious? Like, from the sky, with minimal...
Going to have some impact on the economy of China.
How geopolitical...
One thing I'm looking for is, with both Trump and Nuxtaku, is the realization that they've been lied, that, for example, this is not going as planned in the Iranian war, and that how bad it is, the situation we're in. Because they're not there yet. They don't understand how bad it could be. All the implications, all the other videos we've seen, like the limited interceptors for air defense, are limited, like 3-4 weeks is the maximum U.S. campaign against Iran. What happens after that? There's the oil, the situation, the energy situation. So, I don't think Asmongold and Nuxtaku have fully thought out this Iran situation and what's going to happen.
Political chess is actually happening in front of our eyes. right? Quite literally. You know, we took out Venezuela, we're taking out Iran. It cripples China, it cripples Russia by doing this.
What we did in Venezuela, what we did in China.
Oh, okay. Wow. It's funny because on some topics he's seen through the propaganda machine, like on immigration and the fraud in Minnesota. He's one of the people like poking holes in the establishment propaganda and bringing awareness to the people. But on this subject, I'd say on Hamas, I actually agree with a lot of what he says about Hamas. I don't think, by the way, I don't think Hamas is a good organization. I think it was funded by Israel. Why would it be a good organization? It's the purpose of the organization was to oppress the Palestinian people. That's why Israel's funded it. And I support Palestinian people, but I'm not a Hamas supporter.
China, and what we did in Iran has as much to do with China, I think, as anything. I also want to say, may God rest the souls of those troops, but they died in a noble cause. And as Buddy said, 47 years, Americans are dead.
I mean, they literally stated they plan on killing us. They're Israeli charts they have over here.
Does Doug Taku know that all these people were died in one strike? And he brings up this table, and I went over the circumstances of this strike. Basically, U.S. made a one final offer to Iran, an off-ramp to avoid war. All these leaders get together and meet up to review that, and then we drop a bomb on them. That's what happened. That's how we got all these leaders. It's very low. It's not something to be proud of.
They're all dead. This is the leadership. They're all gone. Every single one of them eliminated. Honestly, one of the most incredible operations we have ever seen. Oh my!
Incredible operations? Do you see that? It's tricking people with negotiation is incredible operations.
My God, wild.
And also, they weren't. It wasn't like there was some wild intelligence. They basically bombed the compound where the supreme leader lived, and everyone knew he lived. And he was living in knowing he might die, and he'd already resigned himself to that. So it was no incredible intelligence operation. We just flew in and we tricked them into all gathering together, and then we flew in and bombed them.
Honestly, one of the most incredible operations we have ever seen. Oh my God. Wild stuff, quite literally. Now, leftists are finally realizing that their allies are retarded. All right? Look at my left-wingers, bro. What are we doing? Watching leftists.
And this is one sad part. This is why I'm sad. And yeah, I had one comment on my last YouTube video that people assume I am not supportive of the strike on Iran, and so they assume I am one of these people. It's terrible. No. It's, no. It's terrible. Like, honestly, on the Iran situation, I'm probably closer to Hassan than Taku, which is scary.
Chant for the Ayatollah regime.
Would you rather?
I actually haven't watched Hassan in a while, so I don't know what he thinks of all this, but actually, I can perfectly imagine he'd be the same as these people.
We be allies with Iran than Israel? Yes. Sure.
Oh, no. Don't do this to me, Ducksucker. Let's skip. What's this?
In Pakistan's Karachi.
10 killed in pro-Iran protest at U.S. consulate in Pakistan, Karachi.
Yeah, these are the people killed. Right, these are the mostly peaceful Pakistani protesters. They wanted to attack and murder our people at our embassy, and now they're dead. Now, a lot of you might not be aware of this, but I actually fully support killing people that try to kill us. I know it's a controversial take.
We killed the supreme leader. It's like killing their pope. Of course, it's going to be unhappiness across the Middle East.
Like, look how pro you. They're innocent right-wing person on the planet. Left. Sorry. Oh no, you're not allowed to celebrate the deaths of people that are trying to find out. Sorry.
Another angle of Iranian ballistic missile making direct impact in Jerusalem. Yeah.
Sorry. Oh no, you're not allowed to celebrate the deaths of people that are trying to kill you, says my neighborhood leftist that literally celebrates the murder of Charlie Kirk and every other innocent right-wing person on the planet. Quite literally.
Yes, I'm not one of the people that celebrated the murder of Charlie Kirk. No. There's this other group of us, Naksaku, that are not on that side, but are not on board with a war with Iran.
Literally, you could shut the fuck up and die. Anyway, leave rather. Die peacefully. Mostly peaceful death. Anyway, I want to show you there were strikes on Jerusalem.
I think I've had enough I could tolerate of this. Let's go to Asmongold, how he's covering it. I wanted to end with that, maybe. What's this? Holy fucking If this isn't Iran, I might look for another video, but let's see.
Right now, they're attacking airports. They're attacking hotels. They're hitting not just military bases, they're attacking our embassies directly. They're attacking facilities that have nothing to do with war or with military. And that's a weekend Iran.
Embassies, U.S. embassies are intelligence gathering hubs. They're practically every one of them is a CIA base of operation. I'm just throwing that out there. That's what we've learned. Not that it's great that they're attacking them, but yeah.
That's in Iran despite years of sanction.
Exactly. I mean, it makes sense from the CIA's perspective. It's some place that's like it's basically under complete U.S. control. It's a perfect place to set up an intelligence gathering operation.
Imagine a year from now or a year and a half from now, the capabilities they would have to inflict damage on us.
Exactly.
It's an unacceptable risk.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Asmongold's still on the propaganda train. We'll see if that lasts, if that changes. I was anti-woke long before Asmongold was anti-woke. He took like 3 years to catch up to the point I was at. So, so many things. And Pizzagate, I knew about that a decade before he did. He still has to catch up on so many topics.
Yes.
Especially in the hands of a regime that's run by
terrorist regime.
Clerics.
Yes.
The Ayatollah is was a radical.
Was.
That entire regime.
Was? Then, it's past tense. Then who's dropping all these bombs all over the Middle East? The regime is still there. We just killed the supreme leader. We just killed their pope. The regime is still alive.
Is led by radical clerics who don't make geopolitical decisions. They make decisions on the basis of theology, their view of theology, which is...
And that's why they never attacks anyone without provocation in the 47-year history. Yes, they supported proxies, but they anytime they shot a missile at Israel, it was after Israel bombed their embassy or bombed their country or did a provocation. They never unprovoked attacked anyone.
Apocalyptic one. That has to be taken very seriously as well.
Damn, he calling it out.
The purpose for what this operation is all about. That's what it's focused on. As the president said earlier today, it is on or ahead of schedule. I will defer to the Department of War to discuss the progress being made at a tactical level. But it was the right decision and an important decision for the safety and security of the world. What was come after us, and we were not going to.
His entire thing, his speech.
Before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths.
Actually, I think
proactively in a defensive way to.
Yeah, he's still totally on board. It takes some more time before. Eventually, the truth will reach him, because someone that's not a leftist will give him a few pointers.
What is this? Photos of the crew down by the F-13 jet. Iran air defense. Oh, this is by Jackson Hinkle.
Yeah, they're saying all three were friendly fire. One maybe. 3 friendly fire? No. The Iranians shot down these planes.
F-15 fighter jet pilot who was down over Kuwait moments ago in a friendly fire accident is alive. He ejected and is now being taken care of by a group of Kuwaitis. Okay, that's good. Are you fine? New video shows a Kuwaiti man running up to an American fighter pilot after her fighter jet had been shot down by Kuwaiti air defense systems in a friendly fire incident. Jesus Christ. How the fuck is this happening? It's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? What the fuck are they doing?
And these people don't understand that as a pilot, you'll never guard for friendly fire. These pilots will obviously evade attacks they anticipate. They turn off their transponder and refuse to identify themselves. Well, I don't think it really...
Really?
Oh, I don't have the video. There's one thing one other on this particular topic, something that came up that I found really interesting. I don't know which video it was, but I'll repeat it here. There was in the article, one of the articles talking about the shooting down these 3 planes. They were mentioning they mentioned Iranian air defense. It mentioned that Iranians do have planes in the air. That there is an Iranian Air Force still active in Iran. That was the U.S. military admitted that in its statement. Maybe I can find something of that. Iranian air defense. News. No, one video pointed it out. I don't think there'll be anything. The U.S. military isn't admitting that Iran has the ability to fly any plane still. But in this thing, in the statement the U.S. military made about this, they mentioned Iranian aircrafts. Just pointing out, so that means there actually are Iranian aircrafts in the air.
You need something to help you?
I'm okay. You're in the middle of a desert.
Safe.
What do you mean you're okay?
You're safe. Everything good? No problem. Thank you for helping us. Everything perfect?
Man. Thank you for helping us.
See, so many people around the region, the U.S. propaganda arm is so powerful, and it shapes so much of the world still. But it's failing more and more. Hope to be part of that. And the holes are being punched. It's funny, Asmongold is one of the punching holes in that mainstream narrative in some places. And in other places like this, he's part of the propaganda machine, unknowingly, supporting it.
No problem. Thank you for helping us. Everything perfect?
It's almost like all of the mentally ill fat communists on Twitter are wrong, and the people that are over there actually don't want to be oppressed by terrorists. I know, big surprise, guys. Huge surprise. 6 American Air Force soldiers crashed in Kuwait and safely ejected after a friendly fire incident. Kuwait mistook 3 U.S. planes for Iranian aircraft. Oh my God. Well, okay.
I think that's a statement slightly less embarrassing than admitting that Iran shot down 3 planes. But maybe it was friendly fire, but that's pretty embarrassing in itself. 3 aircrafts friendly fire. In any case, it's a disaster for you.
Well, that's what happens, right? You can't win them all. And at least it's not Iran that's shooting them down, I guess. Let me see if there's any more of these that are worth looking.
Do you think, Asmongold, I wish I could ask you, do you think the U.S. military would admit it if it was Iran shooting them down?
Yeah. Iran has aircraft? Yeah. And this is them here? Jesus, fog of war. Mistakes happen.
Mistakes happen.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
it's not good for U.S. images. These planes just falling from the sky.
Oh, man. Oh, God.
One thing I'm wondering is, if Iran manages to bomb basically all the air bases, all the airstrips, where will U.S. planes take off from? Like, the planes that bombed Iran from Israel, they refueled mid-flight. You had planes took out from the Gulf states, like Bahrain, refuelers, and allowed those Israel planes to refuel either on their way or on their way back from bombing Iran. Now, if Iran takes out the airfields that allow that, and that's one thing I would do if I was Iran. I'd bomb all the airfields around me until no plane could take off. And carry and lob missiles at the carriers till I push them too far to actually fly deep into Iran. What do we do then?
How much money was this? Fuck. Thank God nobody died. Yeah, it can't win.
You say nobody died, but where did that plane land? We don't know that for sure.
Them all, right, guys? Listen, mistakes happen.
Actually,
they can pay for them. That's all right. You know, we got $1 trillion. Jesus, guys. Oh.
Yeah, here he is realizing that. I mean, he just a day ago was a huge success. We take out all these leaders without any casualties. In the time since then, he's learned that actually, yeah, no, there are U.S. casualties, and yeah, also these are U.S. planes falling from the sky. See, we need you know, a few more days of this, and there's going to be a realization on this part, and probably on part Trump too, that oh God, this is not going good.
Oh man, not looking good.
لا والله حربية طيارة حربية طيارة حربية شوف 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 شوف
Oh no. U.S. #1. Yeah. Right, guys, for sure. And I guess maybe it seems like Kuwait #1, U.S. #2. Dramatic video of the U.S. Air Force falling out of the sky after being targeted by Kuwaiti Air Forces. Jesus. And there, jeez.
That's third one,
man. And nobody died? Oh my God. Well, oops.
Yeah,
Mine. How much is one of
some part of him is thinking it's also hilarious seeing these. He is an anarchist streak in him, Asmongold. So he's enjoying this.
These planes
on some.
Yeah,
level.
how much is one of these? $90 million. Do we got you guys 3-0? Yeah, right. Yeah, good shot, guys. And that's an extraordinary claim. So, wow. I don't know if really this is it. Let me go back. I'll pull up some of the other posts about this. So, yeah, there's this. Ah, Jesus, man. This doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't look great, does it? And so they pay for the new ones. I don't know. Jet pilot in Kuwait after an emergency ejection with a fighter jet was shot down in friendly fire incident. And it looks like everybody is fucking dude.
Women drivers, am I right? Oh no. Okay, I'm not going to get into that one, but of course. Anyhow, let me just check Twitter. I'm always going to call it Twitter for the one simple reason. I think Elon Musk has done a lot of good things, but X. There's a reason Yahoo failed to become the biggest search engine, and Google did when in the search engine wars. You can't Yahoo something. Oh, I'm going to Yahoo this. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't. Yahoo isn't a verb, but Google is. You can Google something. I Googled that. I need to do some Googling. It works. X is the same thing. You can't X something. I'm going to go X something. Or I'm going to go X. It doesn't work as a verb. Twitter, though. You can tweet something. I'm tweeting. And I think that's so important for the success of a website. So for me, it's always Twitter. Anyhow. Yeah, that was something I mentioned. Latest. Just see if there's anything that pops up. Yeah. What is this? That's true. I think the one place, Iran did attack a U.S. base in Turkey. But it doesn't attack any civilian infrastructure in Turkey. Because Turkey has the biggest military force, like, in the Middle East, after Israel or Iran. It's the third big powerhouse in the Middle East, and I'm sure Iran does not want to does not want Turkey to enter the war against it, because Turkey could put boots on the ground in Iran. I don't think they could conquer the country. It's not that big, but anyway. I think this might do it for today for the coverage of Israel. Not Israel, well, partly Israel, but mainly Iran. And I'll keep following this every day. And in summary, I expect this conflict to last a long time. On that note, actually, let's end this with have a look at gold prices. How are those doing? Yeah, I think they're going to spike up. That's part of the U.S. dollar collapsing is gold prices going up, and this is going definitely. Iran, China, Russia have a lot of gold, so gold prices going up really good for them. And I think we're about to just break out of this resistance because of the Iran war. And I don't know how high it'll go from there. It's a crazy time we're living in. Anyway, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch. And I'll see you in the next video.